All right. We have a fantastic guest with us today. As always, this Friday, I have to my left Coach D, and me, I'm the host, Coach Schumann. Great to have you on, Coach Anthony Van Curen, FDU. Is that what they say, Florham, that park now?
FDU Florham. That's the official name of the school with Division III.
Did they ever used to say FDU Matt? For some reason, I used to always say FDU Madison. I don't know why.
No, we get a little bit of both, but the official is FDU Florham is how we're recognized with the Division III sports NCAA. So because we do have two campuses, so
yeah,
right.
It's great to have you on, Coach. You guys had a real good year this past year, 7-4. You improved from the year before. I think you guys were 5-5 in 2023.
Yeah, we were 5-5 in 23, 7-4 this past year. My first year as head coach, we were 7-4, 6-4, 6-5 that year, 6-5 that year.
So this is gonna be your fourth year coming up as head coach.
Yep, fourth year as head coach coming up.
It's exciting. You're really doing a great job. You just had a big showcase camp with all the college coaches there. We'll let you talk a little bit about, we'll talk a lot about that stuff in a little bit. Take us on your journey as a coach and really also, up to date where you guys are with FDU.
Yeah, sounds great. So, for me, I started coaching college football close to 11 years ago now. Actually started as a high school football coach locally. Played football in college, played football in high school, went away to St. John Fisher College, came back home. My dad was a high school head coach. He was there for 13 years. So again, when I moved back home, it was something where, he asked if I could help him out with the linebackers, was looking for coaches. It was the springtime. And, I just, like I said, got home from college. I was like, yeah, sure. I'll definitely go by and see what it's like. And, honestly, really that first day was, the first day of a long journey for me to get to the point that I'm at now. But it was the day that really fell in love with coaching. At the same time, too, I started a full-time job at the Prudential Center where I was managing all the building changeover and conversions from different events. Did that for about 2 years and then made the decision to get into college football coaching. So I was actually working two jobs, being a regular daytime, employee, and then also going to coach high school football, and made that decision to really just focus on coaching, really. And that's honestly got my shot at FDU. Started off as a graduate assistant, started off just, coaching the D-line, being a GA, learning how to coach, learning how to recruit, learning how to manage relationships with players that weren't much younger than I was at the time. So again, got my start there, coached the D-line for 2 years, then went to Rutgers University. Got an opportunity to go in with the new staff when Chris Ash got there, worked my way into recruiting. I was in player development for, I want to say it was about 6 months, and then became the graduate assistant in the following January. So I got there in February. Following January, I was graduate assistant, did 1 year as a player development assistant, helping with recruiting. So again, got to work with a fantastic staff. Got to learn a lot, be in the Big Ten, at 25 years old was pretty awesome. And then honestly moved into being a GA where I worked with the linebackers, inside linebackers, outside linebackers, edge rushers, just anything the coaches had me do. I was all in on it. It was really just a great time now to be on the field and actually coach and help coach and run drills and do different things up in the press box on the sideline. So that opportunity was awesome and led me to back to FDU, where I became the defensive coordinator in 2019. My wife and I, so she moved down to Morristown when I was a GA at FDU, right at the end, right as I was going to Rutgers. And then my wife and I found out we were having our first set of twins in 2019 when I left to go to FDU. So the decision for me to leave Rutgers wasn't easy, but, definitely wanted to, be a full-time dad, full-time football coach. And I felt FDU at that time could give me that opportunity to do both and have that balance of, being, a coach and a dad, where the recruiting schedule is not as intense as some of these guys now. And even times have changed since 2019 to where we are now, and the calendar and how those guys operate and things that they do. And, spring official visits weren't a thing back in 2019. But now spring official visits are very popular. There wasn't there's now the early signing day. That's even earlier now than it was back in 19. So, the whole timeline of college football has really sped up a little bit. But again, the FDU is a great place for me to go to. It had, and this is what I talk about with recruits all the time. For me to find another opportunity other than Rutgers right? I had a couple things going on, a couple things looking at, but really, and this is what recruits about FDU is, it has the perfect balance of what you could want. It has very good academics, has a fantastic location, right? And the football program is the one thing that if we could ever get going in the right direction, we'd have the three things I think every recruit at the Division III level would be looking for. So went back there to help try to build the program, get it to where it, obviously is now. We went back as defensive coordinator, then COVID hit. Jimmy Robertson takes over as head coach. Jimmy's down at Monmouth, doing a fantastic job with that staff and the offense. But now he's the quarterback's pass game coordinator down there. So was 2 years basically defensive coordinator, 1 year for Jimmy. And then Jimmy goes to Monmouth, and I get the opportunity to become the next head coach here in 2022. So, 3 years later, a lot of lessons on the way, a lot of, not so many stops, I guess. I've only been to really 2 colleges. But again, that was designed, and, couldn't think of a better place to be than FDU.
No doubt about it. It's FDU's in a unique spot where it is really nice area, nice location. I think it's only going to be up from there.
Yeah.
So you took over, and recruiting has changed radically just from the time that you've taken over, right? Which is a short time period. Talk about some of the challenges and the things that you have to deal with, on the recruiting trail that's unique to your school.
So I think the biggest thing at our level is staff size, right? Because a lot of the Division I's, you have the certain number of coaches, you have the infinite number of people in the recruiting department. For us at FDU, it's just myself, my 2 full-time assistants, Mike DeFaro, who's our offensive coordinator, Brendan Kennedy, who's also our special teams coordinator, quarterbacks coach. We're really the 3 full-time coaches here. We do have a couple other coaches, 2 GAs on staff, Anthony Pontalillo, first-year coach for us, John Minnick, first-year coach for us. So really talking about guys that are in the office year-round, those are 5 of us, right? So talk about going out on the road after the season, talk about going on the road during the season, spring recruiting, while balancing spring ball. We have a bunch of other coaches that have other jobs that come by, and help us out and coach during the season and do practice and run positions. But again, in terms of, the struggles of, challenges each school faces, I'd say it's staff size. We do have some fantastic coaches on staff. Like we just picked up Luke McGinnis on our staff. He's done a fantastic job since he's been here the last 2 months. So, we're always looking to build and add to our coaching staff of guys that contribute in a number of different ways. And I think if you surround yourself with guys that are tireless workers, right? Guys that know how to go out, know how to recruit, can relate well to kids. I think that's huge in recruiting these days. Kids want to know that you can relate to them, right? Can talk to them, can be around them, can be around their family, can have conversation, talk about football, talk about life, talk about a number of different things. I think really just, the challenges that we face is, just the staff size and just trying to get out there and do the best job we can and uncover every stone we can in New Jersey and the local area. And then some other things too. I think recruiting for us has definitely been different. Like you kind of hinted at, it's been a lot different since I took over. The transfer portal was not as popular as it is now. That is obviously a huge thing that shifted all of the recruiting, I think, in college football, where, some of the bigger programs are able to now go find other players that might have success at the FCS level. Maybe that high school kid is not once projected to be an FBS player, FCS player as they once were. Which is honestly letting better talent fall down to Division IIs and Division IIIs. So again, that's definitely changed where, we're walking to a high school and it's, we're able to speak to any kid we are interested in because we never know where that kid's going to fall at the end of the day. And again, that's just, I think the trickle down effect from the NIL stuff, the transfer portal stuff, the FBSs can pick who they want, go get who they want. And then the FCSs get their turn. And then, D2s and D3s. So again, I definitely think recruiting has shifted a lot. I do think there's a ton of talent at this level, more now than there was probably when I came back here in 2019. And again, I think it's good for the sport because it just makes everybody more competitive, especially in our conference. We have a very difficult confererence and, anybody can beat anybody on any given Saturday. So I really do think that has to do with the increase of talent at this level.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting side effect that's happened for the Division III level that you're going to potentially have access to any of the players. They could fall through the cracks and they could end up coming through in the transfer portal at some point down the future. Do you still go? Do you guys go out on the road as much? Is that changed? Or are you still okay?
We go out in the fall, we go out in the spring. We try to go out the same timeline, and again, really it's about getting our brand out there, right? If we can get
Right.
in front of kids early, you hinted at the camp earlier too. That's one of the reasons why we started doing the camp, just because if we feel like we can get a kid on campus 3 or 4 times, we have a pretty good feeling that kid's probably gonna end up being a Devil one day. So, if we can get more kids exposed to our brand, our coaching staff, our style, our personalities, we really feel that, we can go out and secure a really good class, and again, our 25 class right now, we did a fantastic job with those guys. And again, we're losing 40 seniors that were graduating, or 40 plus. I think it was like 42 seniors I think we had. And again, replacing those guys, we did a great job with bringing in a really good class of, again, a balance of high school kids and transfers. But that's just, that's how it is, I think, these days with every Division III football program.
Yeah, I would think that 100% that is the case. Is the camp you guys just ran and because that's become one of the big camps on at least on the early part of the camp tour for kids, especially in New Jersey. So talk about what you've done, what you've been able to do there, and all the coaches you have, and kind of some of the results that have happened for the kids.
Yeah, I mean, there's been it's when I got hired my first year in 2022, we obviously couldn't do it. I was just really too late on the timeline to get all the colleges involved, get the kids involved, get the word out there. So again, we kind of waited till my first off season. Then it was just about reaching out to people that we knew that recruited New Jersey, friends that I had maybe from coaching Rutgers or, playing high school football with that were college coaches at a higher level, and seeing if they wanted to come in and recruit New Jersey, and come into camp. The design of it, honestly, the reason why we do it this early is because we want to be first. We want to try to be as early as possible. So that way now schools can come in again from the Patriot League, from the CAA, come in, see who is in this area, right? And then invite them to their camp. So early is by design, to try to generate, like I said, a little bit more colleges wanting to come in, then they can all invite prospects that they like to their camps.
Right.
The magnitude of the camp definitely is, I did not expect it to be like that. That was not, necessarily, hey, we want to get 1,000 kids on campus, and we have it, we lock it, and we cap the camps. That way it's controlled. And when I was at Rutgers, I've been to the Mercer mega camp. I've been to the Kennesaw mega camp. I've been to the mega camps in Florida. Like I've been there. So I've seen it. And that was kind of the reason why, a little bit of the driving force behind it too. And I was like, we have the facilities, right? We have the coaching staff. We know people that we can get to campus, and we know people that want to come recruit the area. So honestly, I was at Rutgers too when we started doing, I think it was right before all the camp rules changed. It was the Battle of Rutgers and Michigan, where Michigan did a satellite camp at Paramus Catholic. So Rutgers hosted their mega camp or their satellite camp at FDU actually. So it's funny. It was like my first year at Rutgers. We came back to camp at FDU where I was. So I was able to kind of help navigate and run, hey, this is where these guys are, and kind of bring people around and show them where they needed to go. But that, that was just kind of like, that was the last summer before all the camp rules changed about now college campuses, only 10 countable days, but you can go to 2 camps in one day, whatever it was. So again, our whole camp is really by design. Because I know the FDU facilities, I know that we can hold it. I mean, we had 1,200 kids on campus that day for Rutgers. I was like, well, if we can have 1,200, we can easily do 600 then. So that's where everything really started. I think we can do this. But again, not at that magnitude. We're trying to really make it a good experience for all the kids and make sure. I think the biggest thing when you go to camps like that, and again, seeing it in the South was, the reps, right? Can kids get enough reps to be evaluated? So the biggest thing I talk to our coaches about at camp and in all of our pre-camp meetings, leading up to the actual day is, hey, we got to get reps. Just whatever drills you want to do, we're doing reps, right? We need to make sure these kids get evaluated, get film, get seen, because the biggest thing for us is if a kid can't get noticed, then then the camp fails, right? So again, we got to make sure that it's a good product in terms of reps. It's a good product in terms of efficiency. It's a good product in terms of being able to make it a great experience for all the kids. And honestly, the high school coaches that come to and see it and then bring their kids back the next year, right? So again, our numbers have only grown. Our numbers have been really good, and I think that's what keeps all the colleges come back, and I think that's what keeps kids coming to camp too. And then a fun little stat for us is 43 of the guys that we signed this past year has been to camp at least once with us. So in our class, so for our recruiting, it's definitely helped tremendously because again, you get a kid that's probably a sophomore, maybe it's the first college he's ever been on. He's going to remember that. Hey, I went to the ABC camp. Hey, I went to the FDU camp. Hey, I was on campus for this camp. It was a great experience. So it really is that lasting impression that we leave on kids too, where, hey, we see them in 2 years, see them in a year in the recruiting cycle. Hey, I was at your camp. I was on your guys' campus. I worked for you guys, or, even after camp, just shaking all the hands. I always feel like I never get around to see enough things at camp because I'm always stopping to try to talk to prospects, talk to visiting coaches, just to make sure that they're happy and they're enjoying things as well. And again, take notes and what can we do better next year for too. So we'll be back next year for sure.
No, it's really cool. That it gives them, you kind of get like a first mover advantage over other schools, especially within your Division III in the New Jersey area.
Yeah, and again, New Jersey's, we have great colleges here. You know what I mean? We have very competitive colleges. We're the only private Division III school in the state of New Jersey. The only, so that we have to have a little bit of a difference to us. We have to have a little bit something unique for us because we are a private school. But at the same time, too, we've done. I think our coaches have done a really good job in the recruiting cycle as well.
The recruiting has changed so much, and the fact I remember when Paramus Catholic ran that mega camp and Harbaugh was there, and it was like there's so many. That was when Sabella was yes, I think it was Sabella.
I think it was, I think it was
first year. I think it was the first year at Paramus Catholic, and it was a moment where you were like, whoa, is this how this is going? And there were so many kids and there were so many coaches and it's obviously you've taken that and evolved that into I think a much better version, right? Because that was like the first that first one. I remember that.
And again, you look at the schools that come, right? It's most of the Patriot League, it's most of the CAA. And then we have the FBS schools that recruit this area really heavily, right? Delaware just going up to the FBS level, right? Doing a really good job recruiting. UMass obviously came down. Obviously, Harris Simi had the connection to this area too. And that whole staff, I think, is very connected to this area too in the Northeast.
Big time.
And then obviously Army's there. They'll always come just because it's almost in their backyard, whether high school kids realize it or not. That's super close to where we are. I think it's only about an hour and 20 minutes from our campus to their campus. It's funny. I actually grew up in that area too, so I'm very familiar with West Point. My high school graduation was at West Point, so that was pretty cool too. So, we do and then obviously having schools like Monmouth, like Princeton, very good Ivy League schools coming, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, all coming down to. I just think the product that we have. We've expanded a little bit. Obviously, this year we had a lot of more Division III schools than we had in the past, but again, I think that's just more opportunities of guys getting out on the road. Like you talk about Division III recruiting. Camp season's huge for Division IIIs because we need to go out and figure out who they want, right? Who the Division I's want. I think our staff's set to go to Lehigh tomorrow, Monmouth over the weekend. So we're really hitting all the other camps too. Even though we had 560 kids in our camp, we're still going to go out and hit everybody else's camp because there might have been a kid that had a final, that had state baseball games that we need to go out and go see too and get our name out there in front of as well. So, camp season I think is really big for the Division IIIs because you really start to generate that list. And then I know for our staff, we evaluate all the kids before August 1st, before we start camp. That way we know going into the season, really, hey, here's our top X number of guys that we need to go out and recruit and get on campus ASAP, get applied ASAP, and then hopefully get on the first visit after the season as well. And then, hopefully financial aid packages and scholarships look good and we can land a couple of them. So, but yeah, definitely. I mean, even our timeline's picked up too. So
that's so interesting.
Yeah.
It is the way that recruiting has gone with, I guess because so many parents get confused by everything, right? Like if you were to say obviously getting on campus and meeting you guys is an essential thing, right?
Yeah.
What are like three other things that you think are important for athletes that want to get recruited by you guys to really start doing to get themselves out there, right? Because Division III level, sometimes, obviously, a lot of times they backdoor to Division III, meaning they I thought I was X, and
Mhm.
this is what my level now is. And once they get to that acceptance of what their situation is, then they recognize the opportunity, and then they're like, okay, now I got to figure out how do I take on this opportunity? Because I feel like a lot of Division III kids, well, I mean, it's much more prevalent than ever because of transfer portal,
Mhm.
and because of transfer portal at the highest level, obviously, like the players are pushed down to lower levels, but a lot of the kids and families have not yet acclimated to themselves to the new world, right? Like they
Right.
don't, and you could explain them. Derek could probably tell you it better than anybody, right? When he's talking to his high school, it's hard for them to acclimate themselves that they're this is the level that they really are, especially kids who and Division III obviously is great. It's great football. I mean,
Yeah.
playing college football in general
Yeah.
is a hard thing to do, but their minds are like. I don't explain it, but and Derek probably can explain it even better than me because he deals with it on a regular basis now, and I'm a few years removed. But it is their minds are hard to get them to shift towards
Yeah.
what their opportunities are. But once they make that shift, what are the things that you say, hey, listen, we think you're a guy that could play for us. It could be a really good contributor. These are the things we're looking for in order for you to be a guy that we can recruit.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and again, you might not want to count this as one of the three, but the biggest thing overall is grades. That's the number one thing that every school runs into is, eventually you're going to have to, tell us what your GPA is. We're going to eventually see your transcript, right? So again, I think the biggest thing, high school athletes and freshmen, sophomore, things that we see are guys that we would love to take and, would love to have, and other schools would too. But freshman and sophomore year, they got off to a bad start, right? Whether it was just, immaturity, whether it was just the acclimatization process to high school, right? We see kids all the time that have one bad year and it's like tanks the transcript. Now all of a sudden you're not getting as much academic scholarship as you're getting. You might not be going to the, highest of academic schools that you might want to go to, right? So again, really the thing that'll translate to any level at our, whether it's FBS, FCS, D2, D3 is grades, right? You got to have the grades to be able to go anywhere. And again, the better your grades, the better your academic packages will be when you talk about Division III sports. We don't have scholarships, so really everything is based on that transcript, which is the key to, getting more finances from us. So the better the GPA, the better the money, right? The better the GPA maybe unlocks other schools that, we're talking about NESCAC schools, talking about, high academic Division III schools, if that's something that they're interested in too, and then either other levels too. Great GPAs will lead you maybe to the Ivy League too, if you have that type of resume and that type of background. Just really the grades are the number one non-negotiable thing that, we need to have players to have, in order to get them in, number one, but to get them better packages too. Talking about, the biggest difference between, Division I, Division II, and Division III is the amount of money that you can get from a higher level to go there, right? So again, there's fulls, there's partials, even D2, there's guys that are on full and there's guys that are on partials, right? And then that's offset by, your academic scholarships, that's offset by your financial aid. So, for us, there is no, hey, you're a great athlete, here's X amount of money to come to FDU. It's what's your GPA? That'll give you this much money in merit scholarships. And then the other thing too that, is really important in the recruiting process is now, and again, this has changed over the last couple of years, 2 years really, is the FAFSA. Because now instead of being the estimated family contribution, it's now the student aid index, which it's just it's thrown a little bit of a wrench into the process. Last year was really tough for kids because the FAFSA was delayed months and months and months on end. But this year, the FAFSA was not delayed. Packages went out pretty good. But really, that SAI is going to unlock some more money, especially from a private school like ours, right? If you have a lower EFC, that gives you access to more financial aid and grants, stuff from the state. New Jersey does a great job of helping kids go to college with their different state programs that they have. The regular federal program with Pell, but then you also have the TAG program here in New Jersey too for Jersey residents going to school in New Jersey that we take advantage of. So again, I would say number one, grades. Number two, your family to be on top of the financial aid side of things, especially at Division III. If it does become the reality, how fast can you do the FAFSA? How fast can you get that done and submitted to all the schools you want to? Because at the FBS level, when I was at Rutgers, we didn't ask what a kid's financial aid background was. We didn't ask what his family income was. It wasn't a factor. If we wanted you at Rutgers, you were on scholarship, and that was that. Everything was paid for. But again, when you don't get that FBS offer, it's really now GPA, finances. But then obviously the work ethic, because no matter where you go, there's going to be 6 a.m. lift. No matter where you go, there's going to be, late night studying film. There's going to be camp where, you're going outside for a 3-hour practice, getting the mandatory time off, getting in the weight room, getting in the, the film room again, going out for a walkthrough at night. So that work ethic needs to be there no matter what division you're going to be. Otherwise, you're not going to make it, no matter where you end up and no matter what the program is, and no matter what the level is, because essentially we're all doing the same stuff. It's just doing it at a different university with a different logo on your chest, but we're all essentially doing the same schedule during the season. So just need to make sure that work ethic is there. So, and then I would just say too, just having the leadership qualities too, because if guys want to be, I saw one of the tweets you guys put out the other day about, best players, hardest workers. I think that's a direct correlation. I've been around FDU now for 4 years, for really 4 years after COVID. And since that time, when we've started to flip the script on wins and losses and success and bowl games and things like that, our best players have been our hardest workers. So it's been a direct translation of, hey, if our best players can be our hardest workers, that just makes everybody else fall and follow suit with everybody else. Hey, he's an all-conference, first-team all-conference guy. This is how hard he works. If I want to be first-team all-conference, if I want to be the starting quarterback, I need to work like this too. So, so again, it's kind of that trickle-down effect that unknowingly happens within your program, which is awesome too. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on those 3 things there.
That's phenomenal. I mean, it's funny how the hard working part, like how it has to amazing that it has to be said, but right.
Yeah, no, again,
it's amazing that, but it's true, right?
Yeah,
true,
we sat down with recruits, and one of the questions we get sometimes is like, oh, what's camp schedule like? And it's on my desktop because, why wouldn't it be? The first thing I think about in May is, all right, this is on my desktop. I got to start working on our camp schedule. And I pulled it up and they looked at it and they're like, oh, okay, this was, this is the same as probably, Rutgers and whatever. I said, honestly, the schedule is pretty much similar to what we did at Rutgers, actually. So, which is what they did when Chris Ash was coming from Ohio State. So it's just, copy, change, and adjust to your program. And for me, it was just copy, change, adjust to our program, right? Because again, if it's going to work, right? We're all doing the same stuff. So, but I think, it's funny just sitting down with some recruits and their parents are asking about pulling, oh, what's your camp schedule? I pull it up and they're like, all right, wow, you're going to be busy the entire day, every day for the next 14 to 15 days. Like, that's pretty much it. So, but yeah, no, it's just, it's the work ethic thing is just, it's 6 a.m. lift, right? We all have 6 a.m. lift. I was at Rutgers. We had 6 a.m. lift. I'm here. We have 6 a.m. lift. It's how it is. So
I think because of the doing away with 2-a-day, like when 2-a-days was a thing,
yeah,
people kind of knew that it was going to be real hard work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But 2-a-days at not just at the college level, but at high school, taken away. It's like a cakewalk in high school, like it's
no doubt. And again, it's funny because when I was at Rutgers, we did have 2-a-days. So I was there my first year. That fall was the last year of 2-a-days. So we were able to have 2 practices one day, and then the next day had to be 1 practice. And then the next day you could have 2 practices. But again, I just remember those days as coaches, that was a grind, doing 1 practice, prepping another practice, then prepping the next day. Then finally, after that practice, you felt like you had a little bit of a breath. You could take a breath for a second. Then you had to go prep 2 practices again. So, that was just like a grind. But again, now we replace that time on the field with time in the classroom. And I know our guys get a lot of stuff out of our schedules and our meetings because, just how we try to teach everything and, really try to teach the whole, then break it down into the part and then go back and try to teach it to the whole again. So, but no, it's crazy how just, different things have become. And again, I'm a relatively young, I think young now. I maybe not at 35, but young head coach. And things have changed. Things have changed dramatically since I started coaching, 10, 11 years ago now. So, yeah.
Well, talk about how you install things. As you mentioned it. So the whole method, which was one of my favorite ways of teaching football because they they grasp it really well. Like you
Yeah.
install it, then you bring it into pieces,
Yep.
then you bring it back together again. Talk about that, because I think it's one of how you teach football. I
Yeah.
think, and everyone has different ways of doing it, but I think how you teach football and the effectiveness of doing it really today's football, especially,
Yeah.
because you are more limited on time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It creates more effective. Talk about. I'm curious how you learn
Yeah.
that too as well.
So again, noticing too, like and this day and age of college football, there's as much technology as you want to use, right? There's everything on Huddle. There's everything that you can use, different apps and different things. And, there's a ton of things you can do now that we couldn't do 10 years ago, and especially ways to do it too. So, talking about just how we do it defensively, right? Offensively, I know they do the same stuff within our program. We'll get together. The coordinators are pretty much install the install for that day, and we break it down into install. So we're not trying to teach a whole playbook. We're trying to walk in there with a small fraction of the playbook of what we want to get done on the first day, right? And done on the second day, done on the third day, but break out our installs. Try to group them together as much as we possibly can, right? For me on defense, right, we're going to teach quarters and cover 6, probably back to back. So quarters one day, 6 the next day, just because there's different properties and similar properties of those defenses that will be same as teaching. So as much as we can get to same as teaching as possible, that's what we're going to try to do, because I think that really limits the overall thinking of the player, because it's like, oh, this is similar to this. This is now similar to this. This is now similar to this. So we try to do it that way. But again, the whole part. So again, coordinators will install the whole thing together. They'll go through, general concepts, overview, the philosophy, the why, the reasoning behind it. I think that's the biggest thing too that kids can resonate with and kids these days are so smart, right? Because they've always had access to the internet. They've always had access to any question they want to answer. They just go on their phone and they can just type in any question. I mean, when I was a kid, we had to pay for text messages. And again, I told you I'm 35 years old, so that's a little bit different. But again, kids have access.
But there was no phone.
I'm with you. Listen, we had a house phone. I had to call my friends' houses if we wanted to go outside. And trust me, I'm in the middle of both eras, which is kind of unique. But again, like these kids, right, they want to know the why, because they can find out the why to any piece of information they could ever dream of. So I really think about teaching why and teaching this is why we do it, but this is why this concept is similar to this. And this is why we're installing them, pretty much back to back. But then we'll break up. We'll go into position meetings where now our position coaches who we've worked with for the last 2 months over the summer, because right now in June, July, we're prepping our installs right now for August. So again, as we prep as a staff, we're installing as a staff, installing it together, going through everything together. We try to break everything down very simply on defense. And again, I can talk about that part because I've spent all my time over here on defense. Obviously I go over in the offensive meeting rooms, but again, I truly think that if you hire great people, you can let them, run it their way, how they do it within the confines of our program as well. So our offense coordinator, Coach Mike DeFaro, has been fantastic with that and has been very successful. We had one of the best years offensively in school history, and we've always had a very good offense. He's done a great job with that offense. So again, let the position coaches break up and kind of install it together. That way the questions start to come out. Kids like to ask more questions in smaller groups because they feel closer to their running back group or their tight end group. So let them get the questions out, but make sure your position coaches are able to answer those questions effectively. But then also then get back together. So we do meetings a little different in camp, right? We'll have an install meeting and then we'll have a review meeting at night. So we'll do install meeting, break for dinner, walk through, after we have a review meeting as well. And then we'll go walk it out on the field too. And we'll get together and we'll go through all the different concepts and let them actually do it, because, obviously the learning styles are, the different learning styles we have. Kids are visual learners, right? Kids have to write it down. Kids have to see it. Kids have to do it, right? So again, for us, we try to hit all of our different learners, right? From, the kids that have to do it, we go do walkthrough. The kids that have to see it, we have teach tapes and cut ups from years past of different defenses we've run. If we haven't run it, try to find a team that's run it, right? Where did this come from? Try to find a team that does it so they can see another team doing it. Oh, this is what you mean by outside third. This is what you mean by deep half. This is what you mean by curl flat, right? So try to have different things that you can show the kids in terms of film, but then honestly too, have them, write things down, right? Everybody in our program has a binder. Everybody comes with paper, and we give out the install. So again, you get install 1, boom, put it in the binder, study it at night when we break. Here's install 2, here's install 3. So we're trying to really adapt to all of the different learners. I think the one thing we've done well is using Huddle and being able to put different teach tapes up there so kids can go back, newcomers can see it, they can review it, and it's good clips. It's got the playbook pages in the front, it's got the film clips on the back end, and that way now it's like having your own meeting. When the kid just wants to go on his phone, he can basically sit in our meeting and basically review the playbook and then see the clips that we're going to show anyways too. So we try to hit it in a number of different ways. Like I said, technology these days, we got to be able to adjust. We got to be able to put our playbook on Huddle so kids can see it. We got to be able to put some good film clips in there so they can see what we're looking for and the expectation of that call, an expectation of them within that call too. So that's I think I tried to cover a little bit of everything you wanted there.
Yeah, that was great. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think the teaching methods of installing the game and requires coaches to, not just be great on the field coaches, but be creative in how they install things and creative and understanding the players and how they learn.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, obviously a lot of it's teaching, right? But a large part of it is like individualizing as much as you can, much. Obviously you have a team, you have a large number of kids, men, and it's hard to individualize. But when you get players that might be really good and they just need they might learn slightly differently. Your style of teaching the game really helps those guys to really kind of get an opportunity to grasp. And I think that's an important thing now. When you're at I don't know how they teach it at Auburn or Alabama, or do they have to worry about that? No, there's another guy lining up that has has 5 stars next to his name, and I'm sure there's some guys that do, but it's obviously not necessarily the way that they have to do it. I think the best coaches always do it kind of the way that you do it, in some way, shape, or form. No matter what level they're at, because it gets more guys playing better. And if more guys play better, obviously you're getting the most out of your talent, no matter how many stars they have next to their name or not. So I think that's a really, really cool methodology. Talk a little bit about, and we didn't talk about it, but I want to talk about it. FDU, the school, because a lot of people don't know. Obviously there's a lot of kids at your camp, but a lot of people don't know like that. It's a really, really pretty school. It's a really nice location. Talk about some of the things that the school has that really makes it unique.
So for us, our campus, former Vanderbilt estate, purchased the property and turned it into, actually closed the Rutherford campus. So we had the TNET campus, we had a campus in Rutherford, closed the Rutherford campus, opened up the Florham campus, which is where we are today. It's an old Vanderbilt property. The mansion, I think, has over 100 different rooms. The mansion's about 100 years old now. Yes. Yeah, so it's a really, really, it's the main piece of campus. And for as old as that building is, it's probably the most used building on campus. None of our classrooms, we have one academically designated building on campus where specifically for those majors, which is the science building, which used to be their garage and horse stables. So again, our campus is a very unique layout. But at the end of the day, you can take classes in the mansion. You could be in, on the second floor of the mansion with a large chandelier and a marble fireplace on the second floor. And then you could go across the way and go into one of our brand new labs. So again, there's a lot of different variety in our campus. It's big. It's 240 something acres, I think it is right now. So it's a pretty spread out campus. But where the acreage is and where the spacing is on the outside, so you actually don't feel like there's any roads around campus. If you're looking for a very secure, secluded college campus, that's what it feels like. You're walking down, you can walk from one end to the other. Like I said, it's about 240 acres and you can walk from one end to the other in 12 minutes. So again, it's not super spread out where you're spending a lot of time to walk across campus like some of the bigger campuses are. Really, our land is kind of on the outside to make it feel like a very closed facility. And again, I would imagine that was how their residence was designed, was to put the space on the outside and all the stuff in the middle, so they can feel like that they have their own space in a very densely populated area as well too. And I think locationally too, where we are, obviously we're right in Madison. We actually split the town line of Madison and Florham Park, where if you're on the back veranda of the mansion, you can actually look out and see the Jets facility. So again, very unique landscape as well. So you kind of get a little bit of a backyard view of the Jets, which is cool to be that close to an
really
NFL
cool.
facility.
Yep.
It's great. And we just had a pro day on campus too for our quarterback and a couple other Division III prospects in New Jersey.
Yep.
We hosted a pro day back in April. Actually, and I don't know if I could say this, but the Jets came up. I don't know if I could say who was there, but they came over, and it was like, it's really nice to share our facilities with them and have them walk around. And one of the scouts was looking around. He's like, I've never been over here, but you guys have something really nice over here as well too. So, which is really cool to hear as a head football coach. I think academically, that's really the biggest thing. When you look at FDU, there's a huge difference academically where we are. And like I talked about in the beginning of why I chose FDU to come back and why I've been here for, since I did come back, because I think academically for what we have, the programs we have, the rankings we have, we're one of the top 60 schools in the North region, which is, from pretty much Delaware, Pennsylvania, Maryland, all the way up and through Maine. So one of the top 60, schools in that region. We also are one of the top best value schools too. So kind of the day and age where, colleges were getting so expensive, our president at the time actually cut tuition by, I believe it was 25%. So we dropped significantly, but our academic ranking is really high, and we're
correct
on the lower end of tuition. So we became a best value school, and again, as the 6th best value school in the Northeast, that we're pretty proud of that. And again, out of those other schools up there with us, we're the only Division III school that has football on that list. So talk about playing Division III football, going to college, getting a great education. We're the best value school for that. And I think that's the biggest thing we talk to recruits is this is the education you're going to get. This is the location you're going to live in. This is the network of alumni that you're going to be associated with and brought in, because we're technically the largest private school in the state of New Jersey. So if we're the largest private school, that alumni database that you're going to have access to. And one of the unique things about us is, even though if you go to FDU Florham, FDU TNEC, right, our Division I campus, and we have 2 international campuses as well, one in Roxton, England, and one in Vancouver, Canada, you have access to any alumni that's ever walked through any doors at FDU. So again, a huge advantage for us is kind of that alumni database, the education, right, and the location. So like I said, when I first, kind of alluded to it was, if you're Division III, looking at Division III schools, why not us? We have the perfect blend of academics, location, price, and now football program at a very high level here, where, in the last 4 years that I've been there, we've been to 3 bowl games and won 2 of them. So, I think that's the why FDU.
Yeah. Fairleigh Dickinson has done an amazing job. So I'm going back in time to when I was coming, I went through high school.
Yeah.
Like I guess the Madison campus was there, but I don't remember it. And I knew the TNEC because I was from Bergen County. I was from South. Yep. And that used to be like a last resort school, and for a lot of kids. And what FDU has done academically over those years is just, I mean, it's like a case study of what you should do if you really want to elevate your university from a small, from the conferences they play in, both Division I and Division III, how they manage that to the academic improvements. It's unbelievable. It's like a case study of how to improve your university, and like in a step-by-step process. Like I've seen it because I'm older, so I've seen it over the years go from a place that people were like, oh, I'm going to FDU, to like, I'm going to FDU, like this is where I want to go. So I think it's amazing, and it's obviously no coincidence that it's helped obviously the football program and all those things. The other thing I was thinking, because you brought it up, the Division III, you got some Division III players, your pro day, as a person who was an agent for 6 years, NFL agent, with the number of Division III kids that are like Division I kids that are starting to fall to Division III, I think you should continue to expand that and open up opportunities for more Division III kids from like at least the New Jersey schools or North, whatever you think is best, and have a pro day. Because the thing that was the hardest thing was, and I had I don't know if he was Division III, but he might. Oh no, he was like an NAIA guy. The hardest thing for the and he actually made it. The hardest thing for those kids that are really good at that level is to get in front of people.
Yeah,
that's the hardest thing because they're not going to get invited to the NFL Combine. They're not going to have people if they had a pro day at their like if you just had a pro day with just your kids, it's harder to get kids there. But if you do it when you draw your kids and other kids from the area, I think the way that it's going, the NFL is going to continue to find more and more kids at that level. And because there's going to be a lot of really good players that are going to end up playing Division III for a variety of different reasons, right? And you don't have to go any further than the player. What was the school? Was it New York or Ali Marpet? When Ali Marpet came out, he was a Division III player, right? And he was all pro until he decided to retire. He was an all pro, and so but that's just the beginning. Like there's a lot of kids that are going to end up being at Division III level. I think you just like you did with the camp. You expand that, especially since the Jets are right in your backyard.
Yeah, especially your location.
They'll tell other guys. What I know from being an agent is like if you have a player, these guys all are going to work for one or the other, just like in college. They're eventually going to work over here or over here. So they're going to tell their buddies, you know what I mean, to come out.
And it's funny just talking about it too, but like the thought process for us was provide high school kids with an opportunity to play college football, provide college kids with an opportunity to play professional football, right? And there was a couple kids that were at our pro day that are now playing professionally, whether it's the UFL, whether it's overseas.
Right.
Our quarterback specifically, he had a really good showing. He had the second highest vertical jump of any quarterback at the NFL Combine and had the fastest L drill of any quarterback at the NFL Combine if he participated, but he did it at our place. And he's over playing in Poland right now for the Warsaw Panthers. So he just got out there right after graduation. So he's getting started and trying to jump into that playbook and get.
That's really cool.
There. But one of the few players from us that have gone on to play professional football. But talk about the opportunities that we can provide players. We'd love to keep doing all of that, right? To obviously enhance our program, enhance our recruiting, but then also at the same time,
absolutely
just provide the opportunity for kids to, pursue their dreams, pursue their passion.
Right. And understand that if you'll have these other opportunities that, we don't ever, I'm sure you don't ever want to negatively recruit against anybody else, but look, you can just say like, here, we do this. Not many others do this. So here's your opportunities. Come here, enjoy all the fruits of whatever we have going on. And then ultimately, like, you're winning. You've been winning. Right. Yeah. So like that's really what it comes down to. Winning helps everything. Right. That helps your recruiting, gets you better kids in the building. But at the end of it, like these are the staples of our program. Here's how we're going to do things, and then continue to just win and put that stuff on paper. And the recruits will come to you. I think that's one of the big things about D3, when we talk to guys is like not many high school kids grow up saying, hey, I want to go to a D3 program, because that's just the stigma that's behind it. We know all of that's not true. That's not what it is. And there's different circumstances that get guys there. But ultimately, when they get there, they realize real quick, like, hey, this is a different type of level than anything I thought. And then they go back and tell their buddies. And then they let, everybody else know. And then the cycle continues. So you're doing a great job, Coach.
Thank you. I think the biggest thing too is just go out and see a game, right? Go out, come to one of our game day visits and see the level of football that we can play in our conference, that our conference plays. Again, just go out and see a Division III game nowadays, because it's a lot different than people think it is.
Absolutely.
Again, it's fun to go to Division I. It's fun to go to the Rutgers games and see the festivities. But our parents club is dedicated. They're out there tailgating just like they are the Blue Lot at Rutgers, right? So it's just different everywhere you go, but it's the same. It's a great experience, right? If you can go play college football and play 4 years of college football, that there's not a high number and a high percentage of kids doing that. So, whether it's Division I, Division II, Division III, if you can play for 4 years and play at a high level at any one of those levels, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, you're special. You're doing something different.
I think those unique things you're doing make a big difference to recruits. When I had taken over Palisades Park, it was such a bad program. But I was already running all these, the NFL Combine, the high school combines all over the country.
Yeah.
And we were running them over 100 locations around the country. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to put one at the Veterans Field at Palisades Park, and now our kids don't have to worry about anymore about like going somewhere to do it. They could literally walk down and go to the combine, right?
Right.
And the first time I did it, the kids didn't know anything, but like 15 kids showed up. By the time we had like the third year, like my whole team would come to the combine,
Yeah,
and they would just come and participate.
Yeah.
And what started to happen was like, and then Derek, I think, coached in the All-Star game we hosted there, right? So, so what started to happen was like these kids started to be like, they started to feel like, hey, man, like this is I can compete. This is an option. And when you bring stuff to your campus like that, the players start to see that and they say, hey, you know, I'm no different than this guy right here. Like, you know, this is an opportunity for me. And then things like happen, like they're happening for your quarterback. And then the next group of kids see that and you get maybe an even better player, and it builds on itself. And I always think like never underestimate how important developing confidence in your players is, because that they can do something, and that people don't really think that is normally an opportunity for someone at a certain spot. And once it clicks though, like they're no different. Now they're like, hey man, I'm as good as this guy, right? And that's when they start to say, wow, look, FBU, you know, you go from seven wins to 10 wins or undefeated. Like they go, how did he do that? Well, you doing these nuanced things, which are just to other people other than you, they don't realize how important it is, but to your program, it's so important. It makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
I love it. I think those things that you do are big difference makers in the long run. Big difference makers in the long run.
Definitely. I can't agree more. I mean, this will be the first, or actually I wouldn't say this will be our first, but and our next class will be the first class really would be when, you know, we started doing all this stuff the last 2-3 years. We'll start to see
your first one to kind of get all the way through.
So the class that just graduated, that was the class that we brought in during COVID, which again, some of those guys came in during COVID. Some of those guys came in after COVID. So the reason we had 44 seniors, we had some fifth years on that team. You know, going into next year, we only have like 1 or 2 or 3 fifth years.
Yeah, a lot of that was like the COVID. Like this is like the year where a lot of teams had like, you know, extra. Like a lot of guys have had to compensate for that little bit of extra time or whatever that was within this year itself. So now that that's all like over and finally done with, like on every level, right now that we're not seeing guys that are playing for 9 years anymore.
Correct.
So now you can kind of get that out, and like this is really what the nuts and bolts of your group is kind of going to be. But also because you've been there now for that extended period.
Correct.
Of time,
this
right?
These guys coming up here was my first class really, and I didn't get hired until late in the process. I didn't get hired until April. So again, with kind of having that seat vacant, obviously we ran the program as if we were running the program, as if we were going to be there for forever, right? So it was just
but if you know how that works, if there's no title there, like guys are going to use that against you, and everybody's going to fire away.
I was the interim, and being the interim is like, okay, well, who's going to get the job? And the whole time we just operated. I was like, I would tell recruits, I'm getting the job. There's nobody that knows this university better than me. I've been a GA. I've been an intern. I've been a coordinator. I've been in every other seat in this office but the head coach job. Nobody knows the school inside and out and what this football program needs more than I do. Because again, I started off learning how to recruit the university, started off learning, how to do everything inside that building. So again, I've seen every different viewpoint that you could possibly have. And even within the university, I've seen a number of different viewpoints from different presidents, different ways we operate. So again, I knew what this place needed. And again, I would tell recruits, hey, I'm the intern, but I'm getting the job. And again, kids didn't want to make their decision until that was the case. And luckily I got hired before the May 1st deposit deadline for a lot of schools. So luckily I got in the door and was able to kind of sign that class pretty quickly. But again, it was one of our best classes too. If you look at it, we have a couple guys coming back that'll be, again, returning first team all conference players, returning second team all conference players. The guys that we've brought in, during my time here that are, have been huge for our program. Right. And then obviously they're going to pave the way for the younger guys now. And, I think that's the biggest thing for us this year is, as our coaching staff, talking about who we have and who's coming back and who's stepping into roles. We're going to have to, we've brought in some great classes. We feel really good about every class we've brought in. Our seniors, we think very good. Juniors, we think are very good. Sophomores, freshmen. So it's just a matter of now getting those guys ready to play, like you talked about, instilling confidence in these players, right? And making sure that they understand, what we're trying to do. But at the same time, I think, one of the biggest things we do here, and Coach Safaro and myself will tell you, our offense coordinator, we'll tell you guys that, we're going to put the best players on the field and build what we do around them, right? We're not going to sit here and have, hey, this is our scheme on defense. We are only going to run this. Last year was the first year in the history of me coaching football I've ever run a 3-3 stack with 3 high safeties. But it took me all summer. It took me talking to other coaches, visiting other coaches, seeing other coaches, clinicking about it, watching hours of tape on it, hours and countless hours of tape on it, to be able to feel good enough for myself to go install it to our players to go out and have the year we did on defense, where we were top 10 in the nation in Division III for sacks, and I think top 20 or top 10 for rush defense as well too. So again, for me to be able to go out and have the confidence myself to be able to install this to our guys and then push that confidence on them through reps, through install, through meetings, right? Our offense has evolved over the years. We used to be, up tempo, air raid offense with Coach Rob. And then with Mike, his style, and our players, honestly, have been more of the, let's spread it around. We can run the RPOs, we can run the free access stuff still, but we're going to build in some 11 and 12 run game because, hey, we have 2 tight ends now that need to be on the field. Hey, we have a tight end that, we can never take off the field. And he was a 2-year starter. He was all region for us. We can't take that kid off the field. So we got to be an 11, right? So again, what can you do in 11 with those guys and use their skill sets appropriately? Like for our quarterback, Ryan, he finished up with us, he was a great thrower, great runner, right? How do we build in some QB run stuff for him? Whereas when we had Coach Rob, we had Anthony Caserta, who's one of the best passers in FDU history, and he can throw the ball anywhere, control it, put it anywhere, any spot. No spot was too small, like ridiculous arm strength and accuracy, right? But 2 completely different quarterbacks. So again, our offense and our defense will always evolve to feature our best players and put them in position to make them successful, right? We're not going to put, the square pegs, try to put the square pegs in the round holes or vice versa. We're just going to let them fit appropriately and build around them.
Phenomenal.
It's pivotal.
Coach,
it's awesome.
I can't thank you enough for coming on. Really, really great stuff. Love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Keep plugging ahead and
we'll do it.
Enjoy the summer as much as you can.
Yeah, I will. I think July will be a little bit easier. I think for every coach, I think July is kind of that moment where you're like, all right, you get it. Maybe
you can
a week
breathe
around 4th of July. Yeah, and then you got to start prepping for camp. So we're trying to do some prep
and it's
stuff
like,
now.
all right, camp's coming soon. Here
Yeah,
you go.
I know.
Yeah, kind of work ahead, coach. Right, work
we got
ahead.
a couple of family things coming up vacation wise that we're excited for here to get away and kind of, maybe unplug for a couple hours, but it never stops.
Yeah, that's about it. It can't stop, coach.
I think
you
that's
want to be
important
great
too.
at what it is.
You gotta have a family that's very supportive, you know what I mean, and takes care of you too. And kind of is the whole big picture too. So, my wife and I joked before about having, a set of twins, and that's why I left Rutgers, but my wife and I now have 2 sets of twins. So we have 5-year-olds and 2-year-olds. Yeah. So we're
cool.
we're one away from a basketball team. So
wow.
So yeah, we're pretty busy.
See, coach, you're tapped to do some special things in life just by that itself, buddy. So
yeah,
appreciate you coming on, coach. Glad we can get this done.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate the time and really getting me, to talk about our program and, go out and tell everybody why, FDU is such a great place. And, really, really excited about the future of our program and, really appreciative of the opportunity to come on the show. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Thanks,
buddy. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right. That was great. I really like what he's doing. Really, really great stuff.
He's developing a niche, right? He's making something. He's doing something different than others. Because look, at the end of the day, like you said, it was a last resort school to begin with, and it was always, it's too expensive, or it's this, or it's that. Well, they've just taken that and they've spun that to be like, well, this is why it's different. And then, like, when you win, that helps. You know what I'm saying? So now, why not go here, right? Where you're going to get high level academics and you're going to live in a really nice place with Morristown, like right down the road. Like that's an appeal. Like the Jets facility is literally right around the corner across the street where, you know, like you said, the networking and all of those things that can add to it, like improve all of that stuff. And then, you know, just go play a good level of football with a staff that, you know, does it the right way. And, that's why they've been successful. I mean,
I was curious what I never knew. I just looked it up right now. It's the first time in my life I actually looked it up. I was curious who Fairleigh Dickinson is, but he's the founder of Becton Dickinson. What is that? It's a pharmaceutical company, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would know. You were once in that land. It's a long time ago, I guess, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So you must have donated, obviously, the money for the university.
Well, I'm telling you, if you've never, I mean, you've been there, right? So, like the campus itself, like Coach was explaining, like it is really such a cool setting in that, like, majority of the stuff is like in the middle, and then like everything else kind of just like, you know, around the entire estate. So, like when you're talking like, you know, when you're watching movies about like, you know, you feel like it's like a northeastern, you know, kind of vibe when it comes to like old school college campus. Like, I mean, look, there's like, you know, you're still walking across, you know what I mean, and you're doing all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's very New Englandish.
Yes, it looks like the a lot. You know how those what do you call those prep schools? It looks a lot like a bigger version of those prep schools that you see.
School ties.
Yeah, New England. That's what it looks like. Yeah. New England.
Like it's very kind of Princetonish.
Or like Petty and Lawrenceville school.
Absolutely.
Kind of like that too.
It's really nice, dude. It's a really nice campus. You know, they have like, you know, the facilities are you know, above average when it comes to that type of stuff. And you know, I just think, and he talked about it too, like the hardest part of being, for the most part, is at the Division III level is like just that lack of staff. Like
that is hard.
He talked about it. It's literally him, 2 full-time coaches, and then 2, you heard them, GAs that are there all day, every day, right? And those GAs are like, you know, they're like kind of one and dones, right? You either promote them to something, or, you know, they go out and get other jobs, or they leave, or they whatever. Like it is really hard. Like you said, that's why I think the camp stuff comes up so much more with those guys, because they got to get more bang for their buck in a short period of time, where they can go, like, rather than be able to go to every single little school that they want to go see a kid at, like they have to use the camps to their advantage because they just don't have the staff.
No doubt about it. No doubt. Awesome podcast. I enjoyed listening to some of his ways that he teaches too.
He's been at it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he's seen it broken down at a high level when he was at Rutgers, like how, you know, those guys did everything, you know, from that perspective. So to now just bring it back to like, hey, here's how you teach it. Here's what we do. I think that works because, you know, you're only as good as like if you could teach or whatever you're doing. Like that's just really what it comes down to. You have to be able to teach it, and the kids have to be able to relate to it. So his perspective on it, I think, is just really, really good.
No doubt about it. I think my dog loves the podcast because when we do our podcast,
hang out right there.
He comes right down and he just lays down.
Chilling.
I think the voices are like ASMR for him or something. You know, like
he's doing this.
He sleeps. He just sleeps the whole.
Knocks him out, dude. That's it.
Knocks him out, dude. He comes down. He looks at me, and then he puts himself down, and
he's like, "Hey, I'm out."
He's out. As long as he don't have to go to the bathroom, I turned. I forgot.
That would wake anybody up.
I had a couple of back-to-backs one time, and I forgot that he was there. I almost stepped on him when I got up after like 4 hours, and I was like, "Oh my god." He slept the whole time. Like just didn't even make a noise. But anyway, great podcast. Have a great weekend. And
you too, buddy. We'll see you guys on Monday. We got one on Monday. Coach Ty Gower from He's a coach out in defensive coordinator from Texas who, I mean, I've heard him speak multiple times at Glazier clinics. He's an excellent articulator of like just defensive game plan. And he's coached in both Oklahoma and Texas. So I'm excited to have him on.
Cool, man. All right, bro.
Have a good weekend. Go get him.
All right. Bye.